All right, I got the turbo pedestal in, and for some unknown reason, this far left bolt, looking at it from the front, that goes underneath, that is holding the pedestal to the block underneath the EGR tube, I just couldn't get to that with the majority of my tools. I finally had to use a 1/4 inch extension, a 1/4 inch swivel, and a short 1/4 inch 10 mil, but I had to put it in by hand for the majority, and that for some reason that was a real pain in the butt, and I do have no memory of that being a problem taking it out. So I think there might have been some minor deviation in the position of this tube over the top of that bolt. I mean, this is the new EGR cooler, so in manufacturing this is some small deviation that I can't get a straight shot now down to the top of that 10 mil bolt. So that one was a problem, but we got it in there. I could not torque it. All I could do was just tighten the best I could. It was just something that just had to be dealt with. The others were torqued 18 foot-pounds. And now I'm just laying out the wiring harness, matching everything up best I can before I start assembling other pieces on here. And like I said, it's extremely oil soaked, pretty much the majority. So I'm going to pull out some ammonia water and some hot ammonia water and see if I can clean it up a little bit. All right, cleaning the wiring harness, all I'm doing is just spraying it down with ammonia, letting it sit in for a while, then Dawn, brush, water, let it air dry after that. Then I'm going to spray out all the connectors with electric parts cleaner, push out any extra water that might have got in there, and then I'm going to rewrap a few areas that need it and move on. We'll be back. All right, I got the wire loom retaped. I think it's looking pretty good. Also did the main harness. It's harder to see though, but got a lot of areas that have been retaped. Strengthen it in a lot of areas. We got the oil filter, fuel filter housing on, and basically at this point start putting the wiring harness back in place, and then finish up the oil filter, fuel filter. I don't know if you can see it, but the cover on the regulator has a bunch of sealant around it, and makes me believe that someone had a problem with it in the past. So I'm not too happy with just leaving it as is. I did buy a blue spring kit. Of course it comes with a new cover, new gasket. So I think I'll go ahead and pull that off and replace the fitting, of course, all the new gaskets, and we'll get it back together. So I pulled the cover off, and good grief, it's just a mess. I can't believe someone did that. That's just crazy. I don't know if you can see it in this sunlight, but what a mess. And in the housing, I'm going to try not to block the sun, but maybe you can see right here in the orifice. Look at that crap that's coming out of there. I don't know if you can see that, but that's just crazy. So I got to clean all that, blow it out with some air. All right, we got it cleaned up, got the new kit installed. Everything fit well. The housing cover, I don't know, it seemed to be pretty good quality. I read some comments where other people said it wasn't, but I saw nothing wrong with it at all. So maybe it's a different supplier, or maybe they increased their quality, I don't know. But everything fit well and worked well. Got it off of Amazon, so it's not OEM, but I think I paid about $23 for it. I just took a chance, and it looks like everything's good. Okay, well, I spoke too soon. Everything was going extremely well until I got to the point of threading in the fuel line fitting. On the new one, which I put back in the bag here, it bottomed out well before it was sealing. Went about 3/4 of the way in, and then it just would not thread any further without tremendous pressure. I knew if I kept going I probably would crack the case, so I just took it back off. I cleaned up the old cover, and of course I made use of all the new gaskets, the new O-rings, the plunger, the air bleed fitting, and of course the spring. Everything else worked out well, but nope, this case, they did not cut the threads well enough to fit this fitting. But otherwise it worked out pretty good, so I'm not gonna bemoan $23. We'll just move on. All right, of course filter housings are installed, fuel lines are installed, except for the passenger side. I still got to get that one in. Got the wiring harness pretty well situated. A couple things to do here just to get things in place. Got the ground on. Had to find a bolt for that. It was not there previously. So right now I'm just going to put the new thermostat in. I took it out, the old one out, when I was in the process of flushing the coolant system. So thermostat is out, the old one of course. Since I got a new housing, new seals, everything, I'm just going to put it right on in. Looks pretty clean in there. So let me get that done. We'll be back. All right, new thermostat, and of course the new upper thermostat housing is on. Plug it up to keep the lizards and the insects out. Next is the FICM. All right, FICM is installed. Put some dielectric grease on the connectors. Everything's connected. All right, it's time for the what I call the turbo struggle, because you know it's might heavy for me and I don't have long arms, so I've got to basically crawl and lay across the top and get this in place with the help of pry bars and whatever else I can get. I'm gonna clean up the edges here a little bit, put down some anti-seize, and we'll be ready here shortly. So I'm looking at these O-rings that go on the turbo drain pipe. When I bought the pipe, I was impressed. It was a good construction, very sturdy, very heavy. And these are the original gaskets that came in the kit with the pipe. And these are also the gaskets that have severely deteriorated. They're just crap. So if you do order this downpipe, I think I got it off of Amazon, do not use these gaskets. These are the ones that come, basically the Ford OEM gaskets. Of course that's for the oil feed. Anyway, I was just kind of shocked. I don't know if you can see that, but it's just completely shot. And run time on the vehicle after I've installed them, probably less than 50 hours. So that's crazy. Just wanted to point that out. All right, well, we got the turbo in, of course. Get everything torqued down properly. The turbo bolts to the mount, the V-clamps on both sides. And I double checked the V-clamp on the, or the clamp on the EGR cooler. FICM's in, wiring's all attached, at least up to the components that are already installed. And got the map sensor back in place. Had to replace the new line. It's actually acting as a vacuum line, I think, going from the intake to the map sensor, but it's a fuel line. And this goes right here. I see that. All right. So the next thing is going to be the alternator in the belt. And after that, probably the degas bottle. Then the CAC tubes off the cooler to the turbo. And I think that's pretty well it until I get the batteries in it and the airbox. Oh yeah, and of course the fan shroud. That's the other thing I'm forgetting. I've got to disconnect the radiator again, pull it back a little bit so I can get the get this reattached, but I gotta get the fan shroud inside there first, and of course connect the electrical connection here. But that's it. We'll be back. Okay, well, off camera, got carried away, but I went ahead and put the alternator on. Nothing to see there really. Get 3 bolts. I just put it on really loosely, then I just used the pry bar to pop the belt on. It raised up on the tensioner. Right now, I'm pulling the bolts out of the radiator bracket so I can move the radiator back further to give me room to put the plastic shroud inside. So I'm going to take care of that and we'll be back. Well, we got the shroud back in place, nice and tight. I replaced 2 missing bolts. So once again, thanks to the previous person who touched it. All right, well, we got the degas bottle, upper radiator hose, CAC tube, and I think that's it for the moment. Got those installed. Next, I'm going to be going for the battery box down here that I took out, and we'll be back. Yeah, got the new fuel filter, upper, and then the oil filter. Had to buy a new cap because the previous filter was one of those OEM cap filter altogether things, so I went back to stock. Of course, there's the old fuel filter, so we'll get it back together here. Okay, I just drained the water out of the fuel housing bleed valve here. I'm going to pull the cap off and replace the fuel filter. Fairly easy. I think that was a T40 American size. Standard might be a different, and can't remember. It's the same size as on top of the engine, so should be no problem. Get this done. Here's the rail fuel filter. It's got some crud on it. I think I've seen worse though, but it is definitely time to change. So we'll get a new Motorcraft filter on there. We'll be good. All right, we got all the oil in it. Getting ready to put some more water in it, distilled water. The goal is to crank it over using the relay over here, bypassing the ignition until I get some oil into the filter bowl, into the turbo, get the fuel brought up to the fuel filter on top, and basically circulate everything. And then at that point, try to start it, and hopefully it starts. Run it for a while, check for leaks, and then if everything's good, I'm going to re-drain the distilled water down to the level of the lower radiator hose, reconnect the hose, and then fill it with coolant. So let's see how this works. We'll be back. Well, after doing all that work, it runs smoother, and the turbo boost is much more responsive. I don't know if you can see it, hopefully. But the whole truck is, well, I would say faster. Pickup is a lot quicker. And I don't have that exhaust smell inside the cabin anymore. So let's crank her up a little bit. Yeah, nice and smooth, no hesitation, no knocking, no smoke. I mean, it just runs as a truck should run.